Well, the most coveted free agent at this point in the season is by far Odell Beckham Jr. Has plenty of suitors looking to add the Super Bowl champ wine out there. OBJ World Tour making a stop at his old stomping grounds with the Giants yesterday, who, by the way, would love a reunion back in that offense with OBJ. Here's head coach Brian Daboll this morning on the sweepstakes when it comes to his former wide receiver.
Okay, so I know you guys will have a lot of questions, I'm sure, about Odell, and here's what I'd say about that. We had dinner with him last night. We had a good visit. And really, other than that, I have nothing else to add. My focus is on Washington, and any questions on that, that's really what I got to say.
Could you say at least whether the door is still open to him signing here or whether it's closed after that dinner?
No, I just say we had a good dinner. Yep.
Food was good?
Yeah, a great steak.
He's meeting with other people here today, then?
Washington. Yeah.
Meeting with Washington.
Brian,
You think that was funny?
overall, how rare is it to have a visit like that in the middle of a game week and an important game like that? I mean, how do you divide your time up in terms of dealing with?
All my time is on Washington. I just got a free meal.
Did you have to discuss it with your team at all to say, hey, this is happening, but don't let your minds go there too far?
No, and look, I understand all the questions, guys. What I said at the start, that's what I'm staying with right now. Everything is geared toward Washington and focused on today, having a good practice.
Get a sense of how you just to get a sense of how you think. Do you, like personally or individually, do you ever think of things as critical junctures, like when you're looking at it, even just personally or even as a coach, or is it your mindset to no matter what, I have to psychologically, emotionally, and mentally recover, and it's always things can change down the road?
Yeah, I try to take it day by day. That's just the way I do it. I think there's a lot of things that can change. I don't think you can focus on the change that can happen 3 days from now, 2 weeks from now. That doesn't really do you any good. It's just, what can you do today to help your team be as good as you can be? How can you yourself be as good as you can be? That's how I take it, one day at a time.
For more on this, NFL insider Josina Anderson braving the code for us again there in East Rutherford there with the Giants. And Josina, you were there for the presser this morning with Daboll. I'm sure it was more than a steak and a dinner last night, but what's your takeaway from their meeting here with OBJ yesterday?
Well, first of all, no, they were not at the 40-40 club. So when you're saying it's more than a steak and a dinner, it wasn't that. But, I mean, yes, it's part of the free agent process as far as taking and receiving a free agent, making them feel welcome, rolling out the red carpet. Yesterday, I alluded to that in terms of how the Giants are treating Odell on his visit into East Rutherford, New Jersey. And since I believe he put on his Instagram that he was flying on a private jet and TMZ picked that up, so now I can freely say, yes, they did bring him in on a private jet, as they should. This is what you do when you are courting a very important free agent. However, I did find it very curious, though not surprising, I would say, that Brian Daboll and the Giants are, I would say, being a little bit more clandestine than usual, even compared to their past and just free agencies in general with how some of these teams handle it publicly, because we all know that he's here, and it's not taking away from that, regardless of whether you are talking about it or not. And then I say that in comparison to how you think some of these other teams might handle it publicly. I expect the Bills to be, somewhat reserved as well when he eventually leaves here and goes there, although I do think Von Miller will eventually give us a lot of details in some aspect, right? And I know that OBJ is in good spirits this morning based on just recent interactions and what have you. But then compare that to the Cowboys, right? And how we expect the Cowboys to handle that when he gets there relative to how they make him feel and their willingness to talk about it and how much the players will discuss it when he's in the building. Now, the Giants have their player availability later this afternoon at 1 o'clock, so we'll see how much they're talking about it. I expect them to be open, but I have to say I'm a little bit surprised that they're being conservative about it. I think that they should be just a little bit more open to the process and talking talking about it, it's okay. And sometimes you win free agents, sometimes you don't. But I think it goes to the overall lore of, the visit.
You mentioned there, of course, you've been all over this when it comes to the teams and the list of teams that he's interested in. I want to take a look at that. Of course, you got the Giants, the Bills, and Cowboys, Chiefs and Ravens. You've mentioned these over days leading up to this visit, of course. But I'm curious, though, which team kind of needs him more based on the need when it comes to a wide receiver of his skill set there in an offense?
Well, the Giants definitely need him. And then we talked about the Ravens and we talked about the Cowboys. These are teams, when you look at their wide receiver production, that rank 20 and below. So there's no question that they need him. I think the other thing that is very interesting with the Giants is, and we touched on this a little bit yesterday, is how a free agent like Odell Beckham Jr. regards the quarterback position. We know that Daniel Jones has made big strides in his progress under Brian Daboll, and that's a big credit to the coaching with the 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and just 4 fumbles down from 18 last year. But in the conversations that may or may not come up, is that a fair question to ask what the Giants could do to presumably upgrade that position? Do you look at a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you look at a guy like Aaron Rodgers? I know he's with Green Bay Packers, but that team is not doing so well. And these are conversations that may or may not come up in terms of just asking what you can do. And I had a conversation with the guy that I regard a very expert when it comes to the cap knowledge. And we know that the Giants right now, at least he's projecting them to have at least $36 million in cap space next year. And if you put that and include Saquon Barkley's potential franchise tag, that gives you about 26. So just follow me with my math here. Let's just go down this rabbit hole just for a little bit. So let's just say potentially, right, a guy like Aaron Rodgers is thinking about whether he wants to, and I'm not saying that he is, but let's just kind of think about this. If he considered not wanting to be with Green Bay anymore and would consider, going to another team, as last year, talks of Denver and what have you were out there. And let's just say that team was the Giants, right? So next year, he has a $58.3 million option that is open from the new league year next year all the way to the first day before the regular season. He has $59.465 guaranteed. If they exercise that $50 million option that I was talking about, then, listen with me, that can get prorated over to 2026 because he had that 3-year, $150 million deal last year. So what does that mean? If you prorate $58 million and divide that over the 4 years remaining, that would be $14 million for the upcoming season, plus his base salary of $1 million and a $50,000 work bonus. So that's roughly $15 million. So if you're considering that the Giants, or you're estimating that they'd have about $26 million, that means you can do it. And then that means you have that money left over for OBJ, right? So 26 minus 15. And then you'd have to restructure some more potentially if he wants more than 7, 8, or 10 million. So I'm just trying to show you the potential of possibly doing something like that, so you can, follow, that with me here. But back to your question in terms of which teams need him, the teams that not only have lower wide receiver production, have guys that are injured. The Ravens brought in Deshaun Jackson, but he only played 10 snaps in the last game. Obviously, Rashad Bateman is out. So, yeah, these are teams that if they want to have strong postseason runs, want to consider this. And when you look at what the Rams did in bringing OBJ, a guy like Eric Weddle coming off the couch, yes, 1 or 2 guys can be that difference.
You mentioned there, Josina, helping to make dollars make sense there when it comes to the Giants and other teams looking for his services. Josina, appreciate your time, and stay warm out there. I know it's a little nippy. I can see the wind up there cutting up on you a little bit. All right, inside the
Not as much.